This said what?
Welcome to Bitcoin Reactions. My name is Dan, and you all have been very active in the comments section. So for this video, I'm going to be reacting to all of the things that you all have been saying. Quick note before I do though, Bitcoin can be a polarizing topic. More than anything, this channel is about Bitcoin education. So if you have a counter argument to anything that I've said or anything that someone else has said, please feel free to articulate your thoughts down in the comments. Just be sure to stay respectful. Great, now that we've got that out of the way, let's start.
Let's get started.
This first comment comes from Tall Paul Bigsmith, and he writes, "You go, bro. Keep preaching the Bitcoin gospel. It's the only sound money we have currently." Well, Mr. Tall Paul Bigsmith, thanks so much for saying that. I agree. I think educating people on Bitcoin is super important. At this point, it just feels super obvious that this is where the world is going. And personally, I think this is a really good thing. So you can expect a lot more videos in the near future. I'm already working on a lot of big things to improve the production quality of my channel, and I'm really excited to share them all with you. So thank you so much for your comment. I appreciate it a lot.
Thank you.
The next comment is from Josh Bailey 3021, and he writes, "Bernie Madoff Ponzi lasted 20 years. Just saying." Thanks so much for your comment, Josh. You're absolutely right. Bernie Madoff's Ponzi did last almost 20 years. He defrauded investors out of $65 billion. And what's crazier is that's not even the only Ponzi to last that long. Alan Stanford and Lou Pearlman each ran their own Ponzi's, which also lasted about 20 years each. Fun fact, you might recognize the name Lou Pearlman because in addition to being the head of a major Ponzi scheme, he was also the manager of the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. But you're right, it's not terribly rare for a Ponzi scheme to last that amount of time. But I believe the point that you were trying to get at was that if those scams could last 2 decades, then what's to say Bitcoin isn't a scam considering it's only 15 years old? You know what? That's a good question. First, I can categorically say that Bitcoin is not a Ponzi scheme. That's because it just doesn't fit the same structure. When you or anyone is buying Bitcoin, you are buying an asset that you control. There's nobody like Bernie Madoff to get in the middle and steal your money. Buying Bitcoin is more comparable to buying a bar of gold than anything else. I actually go into a lot more detail on this subject on my video Worst Bitcoin Takes. But let's dive deeper. Maybe you're thinking that Bitcoin isn't necessarily a Ponzi scheme, but maybe it's still some sort of other scam. And there's a few reasons why I think that's extremely unlikely. First, Bitcoin is completely transparent. Every single transaction, every line of source code, every block in the blockchain, it's all 100% available for you and everyone else to audit and critique. With scams, they always require a certain amount of opaqueness. That's because if they were transparent about everything that they were doing, then it would be really easy to identify the scam. Bitcoin just isn't like that.
It's just not.
Furthermore, Bitcoin is decentralized. That means that nobody has control of it. Scams always have some person or group of people at the center of them that are pulling the strings and reaping the rewards. Because nobody's in control of Bitcoin, that means that that person or group of people in Bitcoin just doesn't exist. So because Bitcoin is completely transparent and because it's not run by any centralized party, I believe that that makes the chances of Bitcoin being a scam approximately 0.
0.
But that was a great comment. That's actually one of the things that I thought a lot about early on when I was learning about Bitcoin for the first time. Let's move on to the next comment. This one is from Phil Fortner, 1805. He says, "We don't manage our QE better. What we do is print USD, get first access, and then it devalues as it makes its way into the world. It's the Cantillon Effect on the national scale, just as it is on a local scale." This comment was in reaction to my Dave Ramsey video, where I said that the United States manages our QE, quantitative easing, better than most other countries. Phil, This was actually one of my favorite comments because you explained something very important that I don't think a lot of people think about. That's the Cantillon Effect, which is essentially the idea that when new money gets injected into the economy, the money is most valuable to the people that it reaches first. When most people think about the Cantillon Effect, they think of it on a national scale. But you're absolutely right. It does happen on an international scale too. And that gives the United States a huge advantage over other countries, specifically because of the fact that the dollar is the world reserve currency. More importantly, you're right. It helps us mask how bad we're doing managing our QE as a country. Thanks for bringing that up, Phil Fortner, 1805. It really gives me some hope for humanity when I see people talk about the more nuanced effects of the Cantillon Effect in the YouTube comment section. More than anything, I'm impressed with the quality of people that YouTube is pushing my videos to. You all are awesome.
Awesome, 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 awesome.
Let's go on to the next comment. This one is from Brian Rusher 3167. Brian says, the ultimate fiat is a currency that can be created by anyone. Crypto. The easiest proofs of the fallacy of the crypto belief system is the unlimited number of crypto that have been created, about 2.52 million as of 2024. And the current price of Bitcoin, $89,500 versus Bitcoin Cash, about $423. Same basic technology, same 21 million limit. If you don't understand crypto is being manipulated, promoted, consumes way too much power to use, and is mostly unregulated, you simply aren't paying attention. If you ignore freedom of speech by refusing to post this comment, you may understand another problem associated with crypto. Thanks so much for the comment, Brian. I actually really like these comments a lot because, one, they're full of passion, and two, it's clear that Brian has spent some time formulating his opinion. Brian, you actually brought up a lot of good points, so I'll try and respond to them all. It seems like the crux of your issue was that anybody can create a new cryptocurrency. Because of that, you believe that they are not actually rare. This is actually a very common critique that deserves a proper response. The first thing that I need to do to respond to this is to draw a very clear line in the sand. There is Bitcoin, and then there is everything else. When I refer to Bitcoin, I am only referring to Bitcoin. When I say crypto, I'm referring to every single cryptocurrency, ERC20 token, NFT, blockchain, and more. Basically everything except for Bitcoin. There's a lot of reasons for that, but let's just start there for now.
Deal.
With Bitcoin, you cannot create extra Bitcoin. At this point, that is impossible. There is just too much security and consensus on the network. But I know, your point wasn't that you could create extra Bitcoin. Your point was that you could create extra cryptocurrency, whether that be an alternative crypto like Ethereum or Solana, an ERC20 token like Shiba Inu, or a hard fork of Bitcoin like Bitcoin Cash. You know what? You're absolutely right. It is extremely easy for you, me, or anyone else to create a new cryptocurrency. But here's the thing. It doesn't matter. And that's because none of those other cryptocurrencies have any relationship to Bitcoin. Even a hard fork like Bitcoin Cash, once it forks, it severs all ties completely. And when people want Bitcoin, they want Bitcoin, not Ethereum, not Solana, not Dogecoin. So, to put it simply, the difficult thing is not creating a new cryptocurrency. The difficult thing is convincing anyone to value it. Here's a more analog example. I can manually cut up some pieces of paper and create a new currency called Dan dollars. I can even make them extra cool and put my face on them. And that's actually a fairly easy thing to do. All I would need is Photoshop, some paper, and a printer. Now, here's the thing. What do you think would happen if I go to the store and try and pay using my new Dan dollars?
Wait, are you seriously asking?
What's going to happen is I'm going to get laughed at. Nobody is going to accept them. So whenever anybody creates a new cryptocurrency, what they're really doing is just creating a digital version of Dan dollars. And the vast majority of those 2.4 billion cryptocurrencies are completely worthless, just like Dan dollars. But hey, you might be thinking, what about Ethereum, Solana, Dogecoin? Those all have value. People are buying and selling them for significant amounts of money. And again, you'd be right. All of those cryptocurrencies did the hard work of convincing certain communities of people that they have value. But the thing is, again, it doesn't matter. Those cryptocurrencies are not integrated with Bitcoin in any way. They are completely separate assets with their own unique communities. They are all competing with Bitcoin as an investment vehicle in the same way that Bitcoin competes with gold, stocks, and real estate. There's a finite amount of value in the world, and all the store of value assets are always competing to hold as much of it as possible. New asset classes pop up all the time. The issue is never creating new ones. The issue is always convincing other people that they have value. And for Bitcoin, there's an entire die-hard community that believes Bitcoin, and only Bitcoin, is valuable specifically because it's the only open, neutral, permissionless, and finite asset in existence.
There's just nothing else like it.
So hopefully that clears that part up. But you also mentioned a handful of other common critiques. You said that Bitcoin is being promoted, manipulated, consumes too much energy, and is mostly unregulated. So I'll briefly touch on all those other points too. First, crypto is absolutely being promoted and manipulated in a bunch of scammy ways. The entire space is rife with frauds and bad actors. And in my opinion, it should be more regulated by the government. So I guess we agree there. But I'm guessing that you also meant all those things about Bitcoin too. So let's break them all down. Is the price of Bitcoin being manipulated? The short answer is probably. It kind of depends on your definition of manipulation. But in the long run, any manipulation that's happening is mostly irrelevant. One example of an instance where the Bitcoin price was 100% being manipulated was when Ponzi schemes like FTX and Celsius were selling large amounts of their customers' Bitcoin without their consent. This resulted in a Bitcoin price that was artificially pushed down. But like I said, whether it's companies doing nefarious things to try and keep the Bitcoin price lower, or if they're doing things to try and make the Bitcoin price higher, any manipulation that might be happening is mostly inconsequential. And the reason for that is that the Bitcoin market is just too big to be significantly affected by any attempts of manipulation. Just a couple months ago, in late 2024, the German government dumped 50,000 Bitcoin into the market. And all that happened was that the Bitcoin price dipped a little bit, then it rebounded right back, hitting new highs very soon after. If a black swan event were to happen, and let's say a company like Tether were forced to liquidate all of their Bitcoin, well, they actually have a similar amount of Bitcoin to what Germany just dumped. So we already know what the results would be. We would see a small temporary dip, and then the markets would just go back to normal. Long story short, manipulation in Bitcoin is not something that I worry about.
It's not an issue.
The next argument is that Bitcoin uses too much energy. Again, this is another very common critique. Here's the thing. Yes, Bitcoin uses a lot of energy, but it doesn't use too much energy. It actually uses the exact right amount of energy to ensure that miners are incentivized to mine Bitcoin at an average rate of 10 minutes per block. Bitcoin mining actually works on an equilibrium where it constantly readjusts the amount of energy required every 2 weeks. So if too many miners are mining using too much energy, the network will actually automatically recalibrate so that it forces inefficient miners to turn off their rigs and stop mining. Now, maybe this statement was more around the idea that energy use is a bad thing because it can lead to serious problems like global warming. And to that, I say this. First, the issue isn't consuming energy, it's consuming dirty energy. We as a society need to consume large amounts of energy in order to maintain our lifestyles. In the United States, we use more energy than any other society, and it makes our lives better. It allows us to fuel our cars, have air conditioning, travel, work, and even power the device that's letting you watch this YouTube video right now. I am the biggest supporter of finding new ways to generate clean energy, but I am not a proponent of being forced to reduce our energy usage. If anything, I think it's only fair and good for humanity if we find ways to generate new clean power to less developed societies that don't have access to it. That's because I think everybody should have access to the same everyday luxuries that we take for granted. If anybody disagrees with that statement and firmly believes that humanity just needs to stop consuming so much energy, you know what? I actually respect that viewpoint. I disagree with it, but I respect it.
And I respect it.
But if that's the argument that anybody wants to make, then I would point to this fact. Per a 2023 report, the global fiat financial system uses 2.34 billion gigajoules of energy every year. That includes energy used for activities including producing physical currency, maintaining bank branches, data centers, and other infrastructure. In comparison, Bitcoin mining uses 540 million gigajoules of energy every year. That's more than 75% less energy.
Sweet!
And with layer 2 advancements like the Lightning Network, there's a lot of reason to believe that the average cost in energy per Bitcoin transaction is likely to go down dramatically in the future. So, as a general statement, energy consumption in Bitcoin is not something that I'm worried about. Finally, the last part of this comment was about regulation. Let's be clear. Bitcoin is the most effectively regulated financial asset on the planet. The only caveat is that Bitcoin is not regulated by the government. It is regulated by math and electricity. The reason why Bitcoin is not regulated by the government is simply because it is impossible for any government to regulate it. If they could regulate it, they would regulate it, but they can't. That's just not how Bitcoin works. An analogy would be that regulating Bitcoin would be most comparable to trying to regulate the English language.
That sounds crazy.
And while it's impossible for governments to regulate the Bitcoin network itself, they are able to regulate a lot of the on and off ramps like exchanges, which make it easy for people to hop from the Bitcoin network to our current financial system and back. In that regard, I believe that having well thought out regulations on exchanges could be a good thing and could be used to protect customers. So you know what? Maybe we're in agreement there. Overall though, great comment. You brought up a lot of points that are really important to explain. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to explain them. I appreciate it.
I salute you.
And we'll do one more comment. This one is from Chuck DeWitt. And he writes, I can tell you without even watching this video that Bitcoin has no value. It has a price, but very little value. Value is derived from what it can be used for and how much people need it. And in the case of BTC, that's almost nothing. Chuck, first off, thank you for the comment, but I hope you watched the video. Personally, I've watched more anti-Bitcoin videos than I can count. That's because I think it's really important to listen to opposing opinions in order to make sure I'm not in some crazy echo chamber. And that's one of the main reasons why I started this YouTube channel in the first place. There is just so much bad information about Bitcoin floating around the internet. That includes both pro-Bitcoin content and anti-Bitcoin content. And I wanted viewers to have a channel that provided consistently good and even keel content about Bitcoin. So that's why I'm here making videos for you all. But let's get back to your comment. I will say you do a great job explaining the difference between price and value. The way that I say it is that price is what you pay and value is what you get. And the price of Bitcoin has obviously been going up a lot over the past several years. It seems that you and a lot of the other commenters are unconvinced about Bitcoin's value. And you know what? That's okay. One of my favorite things about Bitcoin is that it's a completely opt-in system. That means that nobody will ever force you to buy Bitcoin, accept Bitcoin, or anything like that. Here's the thing. While you might not think that Bitcoin provides a lot of value for you, I think that Bitcoin provides a lot of value for me. And so do millions of other people around the world. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share some of the reasons why I see value in Bitcoin. First, I like the idea of having a financial asset with a finite supply. That's because it means that it will never be able to be debased in the same way that governments debase currencies all the time. I also like the idea of a financial asset that's 100% transparent. That's because it means that there are no secrets. With Bitcoin, I don't have to worry about cooked books like with Enron, or wonder about what's inside CDOs like the ones that took down the financial system in 2008.
CDOs are dog shit wrapped in cat shit.
With Bitcoin, there just are no secrets, and I value that. Also, I like the idea of investing in a financial asset that's not tied to any government, business, or third party. And that's because it takes away a lot of counterparty risk. Additionally, I like the idea of a financial asset that's completely borderless and can be sent anywhere as easily as sending an email. And most importantly, I like the fact that Bitcoin is completely neutral. In the Bitcoin network, everybody plays by the same rules. And that makes me confident that the system isn't rigged against me. That's something that I can't say for other financial assets.
Those things are rigged.
For those reasons, combined with the security of knowing that millions of people around the world feel the exact same way that I do, I value Bitcoin and I choose to invest in it. In my opinion, it is the most valuable financial asset in the world, more so than dollars, stocks, bonds, or real estate. So, if you hear all those reasons of why I think Bitcoin is valuable and are unconvinced, that's completely fine. Remember, value is relative. Different people have different wants and desires. That's part of what makes a world go round. But I appreciate the comment. It was a good one. Well, those are all the comments I have time for today. Thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate all your questions and feedback in the comments below. So why don't you guys tell me, why do you all value Bitcoin? And what questions about Bitcoin do you have that you want answered? I love seeing the debates in the comments. Just make sure to stay respectful. Who knows? Maybe if I see some really good comments, I might even invite someone on the channel to share their perspective. So as always, remember to give my channel a like and subscribe. And if you really liked it, go ahead and share this video with a friend. I'll see you guys for the next one. I'm out.